anniversary for the college.
Oh, fun. Wow.
So we all went inside and took a picture with the number 60 spelled out.
Oh, that's fun.
Yep.
So, anybody else have any announcements or events or things they'd like to share with the group? And again, now we're recording, so I'll have to put maybe the 2 links that I put in. I'll put those in again for CIT and for Lumen in the chat for those who are just getting here. Anything else?
I would like to share something, family. My apologies. My camera is not coming on. I've never had this issue before, but let me say something before I log off and try to log back in.
Sure.
My name is Anthony Dandridge. I am one of the interim co-directors of the Faculty Development Center at SUNY New Paltz. And here at SUNY New Paltz, we actually just had Black Solidarity Day, which is a 50-year tradition here. And our students actually, Black students, allies, and co-conspirators go off campus on the day before Election Day, which is generally the first Monday in November. And they co-create a sense of belonging off campus. Students put together workshops and spend the entire day together off campus, speaking about a variety of different issues. And it was fabulous just this past Monday. It was really fabulous. And I really like it, just even in terms of students being in charge of the funding. They do everything, right? So, I mean, there's some things that I wish they would have did differently, but that's every year, right? It is every year, right? And we all learn, but it is always a wonderful experience. A lot of faculty members come and attend. And again, that is a space not just for Black folk, it is a space for Black folk, their allies, and co-conspirators. So that was a wonderful event that just happened this past Monday at SUNY New Paltz. Thank you for allowing me to share.
I appreciate you sharing that, Anthony. I'm glad that you do that. I mean, things like that with students are always fun. It's one of the things I miss about not being on a campus and working for sysadmin is that I don't get to do those things as often. So I'm a little bit jealous but thankful that you shared. I also want to take this opportunity to actually plug that you and your colleagues from your center will be presenting at our meeting on our last meeting of the semester, November 30th. On the collaborative leadership that you're all providing in that center at New Paltz. And so looking forward to that. Most of you, if you haven't registered for that, I'll put the link to the registration for these meetings in the chat. And if you haven't registered for the one on the 30th, you can edit your registration and add it. So I'll put that in there. Anybody else? All right. Well, if you think of anything and you want to let us know at the end of the session, feel free. But I'm going to turn the mic over to Jessamyn Neuhaus from Plattsburgh, who's going to talk to us about her department delegate program that she runs in Plattsburgh. And I'm going to turn my camera off so I can finish my lunch and hand it over to Jessamyn.
Hello, everybody, and thanks, Chris. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm going to put the URL for the information sheet that I'm looking at there in the chat so you can look at that directly. And I am Jessamyn Neuhaus. I'm the director of the Center for Teaching Excellence at SUNY Plattsburgh. This is my first year as the full-time director, but I've been here as a full tenured professor. I started here at Plattsburgh in 2004 in the history department. And just a little caveat, I actually haven't run this program yet. It's set for the spring. So if pick your brains for your insights and thoughts on it, that would be great. The idea here, the agenda I've got is that I'm going to give, it's about maybe 6 minutes, just going of an overview of what the program is, and then another 5 or 6 minutes of the background and why I'm approaching the issue this way. So as you can see on the sheet here, the department delegate program is asking for volunteers from each department on the SUNY Plattsburgh campus. And it's a asynchronous, mostly asynchronous. We're not doing it as a cohort, but asynchronous program where each delegate will get a strong grounding background in inclusive teaching practices. Now, the department delegate program might focus on other issues in the future, but for next semester and the following semester, the focus is inclusive teaching strategies. And the idea is each delegate will complete this program I've put together and then meet with me one-on-one to talk through how they're going to take their insights back to their department through their disciplinary lens. The content of the program will be reading and discussing a book, and I'm going to schedule discussions, several different ones. I'm not going to try to coordinate everybody being able to discuss it at the same time. That's the first thing. Second, everybody's going to complete a workshop that I've done a couple times now here on campus called 5 Ways to Increase Inclusivity in Student Learning. Third, I hope to put this in place. I'm still trying to track down people to do them, but I would like the delegates to watch or be able to select a few 5-minute videos from mostly staff on campus who can offer insights into inclusive teaching from their role. So like the coordinator of technology enhanced learning who works with the technology accessibility committee, a graduate student, student accessibility services, EOP, those kinds of campus stakeholders. Going to record a short video so I can archive them and go back to them, and the delegates will watch some of those. There is an online module that I think is a really good fit for what's needed here on our campus, and it was created by the Student Experience Project, and it's called Your Syllabus as a Tool to Promote Student Equity, Belonging, and Growth. And finally, the Inclusive Teaching Visualization Project, which came out of the book, What Inclusive Instructors Do. They have created really short video vignettes about what inclusive teaching looks like in a STEM classroom, in a first-year classroom, and in a social science lecture classroom. The incentivizing, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how I see that, how I'm setting that up, but it's a $100 honorarium. They're going to get a free book, and at our president's breakfast, which is our really main gathering of the whole campus at the beginning of next semester, people who completed will get just a certificate of saying you completed the department delegate program. So that is an overview of the program right now. So just a little background why I'm approaching it this way. There's kind of 2 main issues that I wanted to address. We have significant siloing on campus, and I know that's a buzzy word, doesn't really even mean anything anymore, but for real, we are siloed with little communication between programs and between departments, and that strongly contributes to a lack of buy-in for building a multidisciplinary community of pedagogical practice. So there's really a direct link. A campus culture that is so siloed in this way contributes very much to resistance to faculty development around teaching. And the second main reason for approaching it this way is the need for much more consistent implementation of inclusive teaching practices at the classroom level. And of course, as you know, on every campus, there's a real range of places on the teaching effectiveness journey that instructors are on. But I will say that there's too many, it's my understanding that there's too many classroom instructors on our campus who need even just some really basic inclusive teaching background and training, such as academic accommodations are a legal requirement. It's not up to you to weigh in on whether or not you think a student deserves this accommodation. So that kind of like really, really basic inclusive teaching practice. So I'm addressing it through various venues. Our book club that we do with SUNY Oswego is reading Sethi and Hogan's book, Inclusive Teaching, next semester. I'm doing my own workshop. So this is just one of various ways I'm approaching inclusive teaching practices on campus. But I think it is a particularly opportune time for this kind of program because Plattsburgh just this year rolled out its new strategic plan with a lot of, strategic plan hoopla the way we do. And of the pillars, there's 4 pillars, whatever, 4 areas that the strategic plan addresses. And inclusive teaching really intersects with not one, but several of those, like student retention and just increasing inclusivity on campus overall. So participation in the department delegate program is going to be a very concrete way that chairs can show we are supporting the strategic plan. And I mentioned chairs because, and this isn't unique to Plattsburgh, but something I've really noticed, that we have a very powerful culture of hierarchies, and that it goes, president, provost, dean, and chair. Those are the people who are like have a voice, a real loud voice and influence on campus. So, when I sent out an email saying there's this fantastic guest speaker coming to talk about inclusive teaching practices in science, I got some people replying. When my dean sent out an email saying, hey, there's a really great guest speaker coming, like suddenly I got 20 more people signed up. So this way of addressing inclusive teaching hopefully works within the limitations that I'm trying to hopefully one day overturn, but for now really shape how faculty engage in faculty development here. And the last thing that I really had in mind when I was developing this is the low energy, or maybe even bordering on burnout around teaching improvement right now. I mean, it's been a hard few years for everyone in higher education, students, staff, faculty, administrators, really very difficult for everybody. So I wanted to make this not a massive lift, not a major time commitment, like doable. I wanted to make it flexible with individual options and not say the only way you can do this is if you can commit to like these times, these days. I really wanted to give more flexibility. And the final thing I'll say about why I envisioned it this way is that I want it to be kind of nudging, but not fighting the battle that I've been fighting against the attitude I've gotten that's only experts in my important scholarly field can tell me how to teach in my important scholarly field. And really, Jessamyn, whatever you might be doing doesn't really relate to what I have to do. That bugs me, of course, but instead of like railing against it or trying to prove them wrong, I'm going to try to bolster their, like a more of a growth mindset about improving teaching by starting with that scholarly expertise, and understanding that faculty academics are very, very invested in that scholarly expertise, and to really, because I should have said at the beginning, I am a center of one very, very one person, no other support or people chiming in. So effective faculty development can't just be me. So trying to empower people to think about themselves as active participants in their own faculty development. I will say so far, sign up has been better than I thought it was going to be. I've got, I think 15 people signed up for the spring and another maybe 10 signed up for the fall, which was significantly more than I thought. And I'm happy to report it's not all the same faces. You know, it's not, there's a few, you know, like, oh, old dependable, you know, coming back again. But there's some people who haven't been doing much with the CTE at all. So it's reached a range of people so far. But that's my overview, and I'm happy to talk more or answer questions, give you some more URLs, or brainstorm with you any tweaks I can make to improve the outcome here. And I've sort of set up my own, I'm going to have to return right next semester or the following semester and tell you how it went.
Yes, please. How many departments do you have on your campus, Jessamyn?
Oh, that's a good question. My brain just slammed shut.
I mean, not probably that much more than 25. I mean, if you have 25 people doing it, and I guess that was my question too. Those 25, are they distributed across different departments, or are there some like
there's some who are repeating? So 15 for this, 15 for the spring, and of those, and then of the 10 for the following semester, about half are from same departments. So people signed up, you know, for the same people. 2 people from the department signed up at the same time for the two successive semesters. And one department that's large, and I'm not really happy about actually their participation, has requested 2 people participate this spring, and I was all in for that. It happens to be a department that really needs to up their inclusive teaching practices. So that was good. So
would you estimate you have about half of the departments or so covered so far from the initial sign up?
I have my list right here. Let's see. I'd say not quite half yet. But definitely almost half of, I don't like the bigger departments, I guess, is what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. And I did go, when I first approached faculty, I started with the chairs. So I haven't put this out like anybody just sign up. I went through the chairs and said, are you interested? Would you like to do this? Can I come to your department meeting and talk about it? On.
So if folks want to ask a question, you could use the raise hand or just wave at me.
Yeah,
Or
put
just
it
turn
in
on
the
your
chat.
mic. Go ahead. Small enough group. Go ahead, Ann.
Diane.
Hi. So thank you very much for presenting this. I'm really interested because we have something called diversity advocates in each department that we identified. And I mean, we kind of created this role for people in the departments and aren't really very clear about what they do in each department, because we're in a clinical environment, and sometimes they're more clinical, sometimes they're more teachers. But I could see doing something like this and requiring it maybe of the diversity advocates with the goal that they would then bring it back to their department. Is there a component to this that's kind of a train the trainer aspect that you've incorporated?
Yeah, so everybody's going to be, every delegate will be required to meet with me one-on-one and tell me how they're going to take what they've learned back to their department. And I've very deliberately left that open-ended because I really have to, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but I'm going to have to lay it on thick. You are the expert. I trust you, and I know you know your department culture. So you tell me what is the best way to convey these takeaways to your department. Do you think you might give a presentation, PowerPoint presentation? Are you going to compile a handout of some specific takeaways? Do you want to make a recording? Do you want it you want me to come with you to your department meeting and we do an interview? I mean, I'm going to give them a whole bunch of options, but you know how in pedagogy circles, there's this saying, like, we want to start by trusting students. And I'm taking a leap of faith here with faculty that maybe they have not earned some of that, but the program is sort of premised on, I trust you and your expertise in your department and in your field. But I am the gatekeeper in terms of they have to meet with me and tell me what they're doing. And I have in my plan, it's not in the delegate information, but in my strategic plan, I am going to circle back maybe at the beginning of next semester, following the delegate and the end of the semester, how did the delegates presentation or whatever they did influence the department? Again, maybe going through the chairs because of our rigid hierarchy,
Yeah, that would be that would be really valuable to know, in the end, did
Yeah.
this really work?
Yeah, but I think I touched on it, but there is a real need. I've identified a real need from other stakeholders on campus we're talking like basic inclusive teaching. So, honestly, if there's some departments, even just if a couple people start doing a couple of things, it's going to be an improvement. I'm really thinking in some very concrete, specific, just small steps forward right now.
Yeah, no, I could see that. I think, it's not unique to Plattsburgh.
Yeah.
I think we definitely have a similar situation here. Did you think about doing like a micro credential or something for the delegates?
I've thought about it. I have a friend, Travis Thurston, out at Utah State, who's been super successful with badging, and he's got a lot of faculty, but a small office. So I've thought about it. I'm going to see how we go. How it goes. There's so little buy-in for faculty development generally, and I don't in any way want to trigger anybody's memories of the online. We get an email, you have to take the active shooter training, and then you have to sit through the videos, and then you take this ridiculous quiz. It's like, there's someone with a gun walking through the building. Do you A, go out and confront him? B, call your husband? Nothing like that at all. And at the end of those, you get like this certificate, and people here, you have put them on their door, like sarcastically. So I don't want anything that suggests this is anything like that, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, even doing something like this is going to be huge, doing at the president's breakfast, having a certificate showing this is someone who completed a program with the CTE. That's never been done, like literally never been done before here ever in any way, shape, or form. That's gonna blow people's minds. So we'll start with that and see how that goes.
Sounds great.
Jessamyn, one question I had is, so you're
Yeah.
bringing them together. It's almost like a little faculty learning community of the folks that are going through the program in the spring and then in the fall again. And I was wondering, it may be good to try to keep them together, or at least give them opportunities to meet and talk together. I mean, and the other thought I had too was in terms of assessing, figuring out whether or not it was a success, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think, keeping an open mind there because for all the reasons you just mentioned is probably the best way to go, right? And it could just be that their ability to kind of complete the program and then implement something and then share what they implemented. Maybe that's the other thing, right? So that there's a closing the loop piece where they share
Yeah.
what they implemented with others who went through the program
Right.
at some, or maybe at a forum that's involves everyone on campus, that where administration hears about, like deans or the provost hear about what they did generally, right? I mean, I don't think we're going to drill down to individual courses too much, but just generally what they did in their department, just to kind of spread the word, and or maybe if their chairs meetings or something like that, that's also a good venue for that. We used to do that when we had faculty learning communities at Brockport. We would always have an end of the year lunch. We'd invite the provost, and all the existing faculty learning communities would come, and then the ones that were going to run the next year, and the existing ones would talk about the work they did over the year with the provost there, and the new ones coming in, just to kind of create that like sense of here's all the things you can accomplish, and get excited, and having the provost there was always the key to that happening. We'd invite the deans too. We'd invite the deans and the chairs from the departments if they wanted to come. So we try to make it like an event that that folks would, and that in itself is enough, right? I feel like
I mean,
you could do more, but I mean, just having it public and out there and just noticed goes.
So I like that. I'll think about how to adapt that. And ideally, all these people would do everything together, but just logistically, that's not realistic. Maybe in the future, but right now that would not be realistic. And it's like feels so fragile, like getting people who've maybe even never done anything with the CTE to come do something. I'm not going to take this doodle poll and we're going to try to meet here. And if you miss this meeting, I can't add that, but doing an optional event where people can share out to the broader community sounds like a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, and maybe too, I mean, just meet with them on Zoom and have them share with you did, what they did with you. You record that, and then you could put that somewhere or share that with others, or you don't. These days we have different ways for folks to share out.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and something that weirdly, Zoom has significantly upped Plattsburgh's campus ability to engage in faculty development. I would like to say, oh, it's just my wondrous leadership, but I think starting in the pandemic as a necessity, but now it really increased accessibility for people. And most of the events that I do through the CTE that are open to the public are via Zoom right now, partly for accessibility and partly just the sheer convenience. Right now, it's really appealing to people.
You meet them where they're at, right?
So I like that. That would be really good to organize. Thank you, Chris.
What other questions y'all have for Jessamyn? Or does anybody want to share what they're doing in this piece? I mean, I just know that I get at least one email every week from folks on campuses asking about DEI, SJ, professional development opportunities, things that we're doing system-wide, but ideas for things that folks we need to do on their campus. I know there's a lot of I don't know if anxiety is the right word, but there's definitely a lot of anticipation on the campuses to the new gen ed requirements, which where there's the new DISJ requirements as part of the new gen eds. And I know that campuses are feeling the pressure maybe to offer programs to faculty. So I'd really be curious to hear what you're doing, or if you have more questions for Jessamyn.
Well, and I'm just gonna put a plug in here, Chris. I don't know what people, if you have stuff planned or available, but I am very happy to do this workshop via Zoom for anybody who might find it useful as a supplement what you're already doing. I created it for our new faculty orientation, and I've run it a couple times since, and it was sort of tailored to Plattsburgh, but I think it could be helpful lots of places if you're interested. This is the handout resources for it. was a major, this is the culminating slide. We don't look at all this text all the time, but you can see my slides here and some of the additional resources that I refer to in the presentation. And that's at tinyurl.com, 5 ways workshop. I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you. That's
Sure.
great.
So Chris, if you get someone, with
Who's looking
like
for
me,
something, yeah, online, sure.
under resource center, looking for some kind of fact dev on this.
Yeah, I mean, I've been getting a lot of emails from folks because I think one of the things that struck me about what you said earlier is just that the needs are so diverse in that
right.
there are folks who just, like you said, are not doing the very basics. And then there are those who want to try like ungrading.
Yeah, or UDL,
or UDL, so the spectrum of needs is so wide, and there are folks who want in-depth micro-credential like certificates where you spend not just hours but weeks, maybe months immersed in professional learning. And then there are folks who want the one-shot like self-paced resources. And so and I think like you've suggested in your presentation, you don't want to kind of say, oh, there's only one way to do this, as much as we all know that there are probably ways that work better than others.
Yeah.
To meet people where they're at and try to give them something to work with, think with the thinking that if you're here and you get here, it's better than if you just stay there. I mean, we'd like them to be here, but
Definitely.
It was interesting for me to hear you say that faculty don't like to come to faculty development courses, because I thought that was just at Upstate. But most of our people teaching at Upstate are not teachers. We have
And I should
background in teaching, so it's really scary.
I think it's more, and when I say there's not a campus culture of faculty development, I think it's not like just the like disciplinary resistance, but if people don't feel fully supported and see that there's a benefit and a clear benefit and recognition for improving their teaching, it's hard to add that, during the best of times, let alone these end apocalyptic times that we appear to be living through.
I have a question. It's kind of for Chris, actually. You mentioned the DEISJ. So I Googled it, and it looks like there's like a certificate that faculty can, or I don't know what it is, but it's like a 4-week course that you can take to become certified in being a DEISJ for the gen ed requirements.
So
Is that
if you're looking on the SUNY website, and there's some professional development resources on there, the ones that we have that are on there now are so none of them were actually designed. They were all designed prior to the gen ed, the new gen eds. But if you look at the language of, and that they're the ones referenced on that website, if I think I know what you're looking at. So anyway, in the gen ed language, there is references to SUNY working with campuses to provide training to help faculty, incorporate these new requirements into their courses. Now, we were then approached at the CPD and others who do professional development system-wide with, well, what do you have? Right? So fortunately, we do have our diversity, equity, inclusion, and teaching and learning certificate program. I'll put the link in the chat if folks aren't aware of it. And it's it's like our other certificate programs. There are, folks can complete the certificate by taking 3 6-week online asynchronous professional development courses. There's the way the program is structured, there's a required course and there are a number of electives. So that we put out there. Now that's, there's a fees associated with that. I mean, it's competitive compared to other things that are out there outside of SUNY in terms of pricing. It costs like half of what you would pay for, say, for example, Cornell has a certificate, a DEI certificate. It's not specific to teaching. And it's really good. I've actually recommended it to folks, but it costs like 3 times what ours costs. And then, but we also have on that website, we've been, as I said earlier, we've been working with Lumen Learning. They had developed a circle, a reflective practice circle on belonging and inclusive teaching. And so that also we put out there for folks to, consider as they're looking for, help for faculty to, learn more about diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice. But here's the thing, the DISJ requirements really are about curricular change, right? We're talking, I mean, sure, you can't really separate curriculum from teaching, but those requirements are, really asking faculty to think carefully about what they're teaching, in addition to how they teach, right? And so we don't really have a program that's out there to help folks think through that. I know I've actually put something in our Yammer group about, there was a session in Cornell helping historians think about the content they're selecting for their courses and the curriculum of their courses around DISJ issues. But we haven't really had anything like that system-wide out there. So that's why I actually asked the question before. I'm just curious if anybody else on the campuses has been, fielding requests from their departments on like, how do we satisfy these requirements with the courses that we have in our major, or the courses we're contributing to the general education curriculum on our campuses. And so, and it is very discipline specific. It's very, thinking in terms of your discipline. And like I said, you can't separate out your disciplinary content from teaching completely, right? The two are very related. And, but, they are different. Sorry, it was a very long-winded answer to what's out there.
Makes me feel better that I didn't understand it before, but at least I have an inkling now.
Yeah.
I just posted a link to our bias checklist that one of our faculty created, and she's actually collaborating with other universities around the country to pilot using it, but anybody can use it. You can go in, and it's really fun to use when you've done your presentation, it's all done, and then you go through and you use this checklist to see if you've been inclusive, and that, there's various parts to the checklist with a tree, if yes, then you go to something else. But it is helpful because it kind of forces thought regarding diversity, equity, inclusion issues related to your specific, small presentation, not a whole curriculum, but just a presentation. And I've used it, and I've actually required it of people to use it. So it's not long. It's long if you were to print it out because it has a lot of trees in it, but otherwise it's not long.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Anne.
Yeah, thank you. I'm bookmarking it.
Really cool. Anybody else have anything else that they're doing that they'd like to share? I know some of you do. I won't call on you though. I won't be mean, but there's our link to our certificate program in diversity, equity, inclusion, teaching and learning.
I have yet to figure out how to save the chat.
Oh, that's really.
Click on them and now they're all open. But
you see in your chat next to this little smiley face on the right, the 3 dots.
But where does
the 3 dots, and then there's a save chat button. I will be, putting the chat in with the recording. I usually
good.
I usually copy the chat, put it in a Google Doc, and then put it in the description of the recording. Well, if there are no questions or anything else anybody wants to share, we can end a little early. That's totally fine this time of year. I'm sure no one's going to complain. But I want to thank Jessamyn for a great presentation. Again, very timely. And we will follow. I'll be following up with you next fall. You can let us know how it went. So
thank you. And I do have a message into Anthony if he wants to hang back for a second.
Sure. Okay. I'll stop the recording.
Okay. Thank you.
I
thanks everybody. Thanks for coming.
Everybody. Oh, hang on. I haven't stopped the recording yet. Let me stop the recording.
Oh, I just gotta